There's all kinds of philosophies and thoughts about the real estate market and what's going on in real estate. So I always ask the question, what's up? It's the Real Estate Show. Welcome to the Real Estate Show. My name is Rick Naples. I am the owner-broker of Zone Realty LLC. You zone your home. Real estate. It's an interesting subject. It's a subject that comes up in everyday life. If you're a homeowner and you're living in a house, obviously you're thinking about real estate. You know, you have bills to pay and mortgages to pay and so on and so forth. If you're a renter, you may be dreaming about buying a house someday. If you're a realtor and you're out in the general public and you're wearing your realtor insignia, or you just happen to let somebody know that you are in the real estate business, you always get the standard question of, how's the market doing? What's going on? What's up? Those kinds of things. Everybody has an opinion. Everyone has thoughts. Everyone has an outlook. Now, some of those outlooks are negative, true, and then there's some positive outlooks. Over the years, when I've been on the internet and I've been doing research for the Real Estate Show on topics that I want to talk about, every once in a while I would come across someone either in the real estate business or looking at the real estate business that would have a comment on what's going on or generally about real estate. And some of those comments or quotes are very true. And I've always found it interesting because if you're a master of words, if you know how to express yourself, usually in a couple of sentences you can get an idea across. So on this show, what I've done is I've kind of written down a lot of the different things I've come across as I've been doing research on the internet. These so-called quotes or truisms or sayings, if you will. And each one of them kind of makes you think to yourself, that's kind of true. Or yes, that is true. Or I don't know quite about that. And the reason why I'm talking about this is because that's basically what real estate's all about. What's going on? What's happening? Is it the right time to buy or sell a home? If I own a home, do I stay in that home longer? What are interest rates doing? What are the mortgage companies doing? What are investors saying about real estate? What ifs? What if this happens? What if that happens? Should I? Should I do this? Should I do that? Could I? Could I do this? Could I do that? All different kinds of thoughts, all different kinds of hesitations, all different looks of what real estate actually is and what the real estate market is doing. So I put together a presentation and I picked some of the different quotes that I've come across that I thought were kind of interesting and maybe to the point. Let's take a look. sometimes when you read those different quotes, you think to yourself, well, yeah, I can relate to that. I've experienced that. I kind of think that's pretty true. And sometimes you'll read a quote and you'll think to yourself, well, maybe not necessarily in my specific situation. And then sometimes you'll hear a quote or a philosophy or a truism from someone and you'll say to yourself, I've never thought about that before. That's interesting. Maybe I should think about that. Getting into real estate as a realtor is an interesting prospect because you learn a lot. You learn a lot about what's going on in the government, what's going on in the different markets. You learn a lot about people. You learn a lot about the moods of people. You're kind of a philosopher, a psychologist, a guide, an expert, a professional, all these things rolled into one. And the market keeps moving. It's like the market doesn't really stay still. Now I know that there's been some talk about market stagnation out there where we think the real estate market's going to even out and housing prices are going to stop rising, at least not as quickly as they did. And interest rates might steady out or may even self-adjust and come down a little bit. So there's a lot of positive outlooks as to what the real estate market is going to do. But then again, there are the negatives that are out there. What happens with the wars that are going on overseas right now? Is that going to affect the overall U.S. economy? And if there's an effect on the economy that affects our everyday lives, is that going to eventually have some kind of influence on the real estate market? And then if I buy a house today, will I be able to make money on it next year or the following year or the year after that? How long do I need to hold a house? How long should I stay in a house? If you're an investor, these are questions that are constantly going through your mind. You want to make sure that you're putting your dollars to work for you. And real estate is most likely the best way to build wealth, as some of the quotes will say. As a realtor for now over 21 years now, and a broker of a business, I've seen a lot concerning the real estate market. I've been around when the markets have been strong. I've been there when the markets have been weak. I've been there when there's been challenges to find a house. I've been there when people have made offers on homes and lost those offers because of the competitiveness out there. I've seen interest rates go from very high, double digits, to very low, to even out. I've seen a lot in my career. This has given me personally a lot of experience when it comes to either buying or selling a home. And it's an experience that I am able to share through professionalism and integrity with the clients that I work with. But not all realtors have been around as long as I have. Now, there are a few that have been out there that have been around a lot longer than 20 years. I know a couple of realtor friends that have been in the business 40 plus years, 45 years, even 50 years. And they've seen a lot too. Things are constantly moving, constantly changing. Could be very simple things as far as the real estate business is concerned, the transaction itself, disclosures, forms, different things that come up, those kinds of things. It could be different things that we have to do in the procedures of transactions, and it could be the general market. There's a saying that real estate is local. What's that mean? Well, basically it means that the local market is what's driving house prices. Now, nationally, we see prices going up, we see prices evening, we see some places that are very strong in sales, we see other places that not so much. Here in Connecticut, it's the same kind of thing. Some towns, houses are selling very quickly. Other towns, they're kind of sitting a little longer. Price seems to be the driver that's driving how fast a house will sell. You know, I had a friend say to me one time that I can sell my house in 10 seconds. I said, what? What are you talking about? You're going to sell your house in 10 seconds. He said, well, all I got to do is go on Facebook and show a picture of my house and say I'm putting it on the market for $5. I'll have hundreds of thousands of people inquiring about it, and I'll have it sold. Well, is that real? No, of course it's not realistic. But it just goes to show you how price can drive a market. If you're selling a house and you put the house on too high, you're going to see it sit a while. Buyers are going to look at comparable houses that are priced a little lower. If you price your house too low, well, now you're leaving equity behind, and the house may sell very, very fast. It all depends on where that pricing sits. And also, the number of buyers that are out there that are interested in your home when it goes for sale. Buyers are an interesting group of people. They all have reasons for wanting to buy a home. Sometimes it's a life change. Sometimes it's just time. Sometimes there's a situation where the buyer needs to purchase a home for whatever's going on in their particular lives. Buyers also are finding challenges as far as getting mortgages or getting the loan that they need in order to purchase a house. Now, we've seen recently a lot of cash buyers, people that have had the ability to take money directly out of maybe a 401k or money they've been saving, or jokingly the mattress money, as they say, and have been able to purchase a house for cash. And this is what caused problems during the pandemic when there were so few houses for sale. You had a lot of cash buyers that started competing, and the price of the house, well, that was just the beginning part. So the buyer that had to finance, well, they were kind of squeezed out of the market. We're not seeing that so much. There are still cash buyers out there, but we're not seeing it as much as we have in the past. But getting back to what this show is all about, quotes, truisms, sayings about real estate, mostly positive, mostly truisms, mostly things that people have looked at when looking at the real estate market and come up with a sentence or two that kind of describes what's up. Let's take a look at these. One of your best sources for real estate and finding out about the real estate market is, of course, the realtor. Now, people who are realtors, licensed professionals, follow a specific guideline. We call it the Code of Ethics that the National Association of Realtors has set forth for a realtor to follow in both their personal lives and in their business lives. The realtor is the expert on what's going on in the local marketplace. In other words, these people are involved in the buying and the selling of houses every day. If they not personally are involved in the transaction, there's someone in their office that's involved in the transaction. If they're not a large office where they don't have agents in the office, there are other realtors that they commune with, that they talk to, that are involved in transactions. All of this experience, all of this doing, what's going on out there, breeds information that realtors will share with each other. Studies come out looking at the markets and the trends and where are house prices going and where do we think interest rates are going. Analyzations come out on how the transaction is put together. Negotiation techniques are discussed and learned, and you're trained on them. I mean, what do you do in this scenario? What do you do in that scenario? What if question comes up? What happens here? What happens there? How do you do this? How do you navigate through that? Realtors, through their careers, through experience, learn how to take on every single challenge and keep a transaction moving forward. Now, am I going to sit here and say to everybody that every realtor is extremely successful and every single house that comes on the market sells and closes to the buyer and seller's complete satisfaction? No, I'm not going to say that, because you have to be real. Sometimes sellers expect too much, buyers expect too much, and no one gets together at the table and a closing doesn't happen. There could also be the odd situation where something happens to the property which doesn't allow it to go forth and close. Sometimes things just don't work out. But you have to have the attitude to be positive, to be strong, and to constantly be moving forward, especially when it comes to real estate. Let's take a look at some of these realtor truisms and quotes that I found on the internet. My favorite idea or quote is when I'm asked that question, when is the right time to buy a home, or when is the right time to sell a home, based on what's happening in the current marketplace. And I always answer that with a smile, and I say, when it's the right time for you. You are the one that's going to drive the decision as to whether or not you're going to sell your house or whether or not you're going to buy a house. You're the one that's in control. But in order to keep that control, make that decision happen or move forward, you need to bring in experts. You know, the old saying that was in one of these particular presentations that I showed where, you know, it's expensive to hire a professional, realtors get high commissions, those kinds of thoughts. Well, the idea of hiring an amateur or someone that has or does not have the experience could be a lot more costly in the long run. That's what we talk about all the time when an individual says to themselves, I'm going to sell my house. I don't need a realtor, I don't need an attorney, I don't need a home inspection. Why spend all that money? I'll take care and do everything myself. That's great. You hear about the less than 1% of people that are successful in doing that, but the other 99% usually fail. They usually have to contact a realtor or another professional to handle or get the transaction to happen because they don't have the experience, the expertise, the professionalism to have the deal come together. Or they basically have sold their house to a friend or a relative because it's already been talked about, and they're pretty much giving up a lot of equity. They're leaving a lot of money on the table. The National Association of Realtors, of course, in doing an analysis of home sales, has always said and maintained and statistically proved that when a realtor is involved in the transaction, the seller usually gets more for the house. The buyer is usually more satisfied with the price they're paying for the house and with the transaction as it's come together. There's a lot going on. The real estate market always changes. It's always moving. Prices are moving, interest rates are moving. It's a moving target. When is the right time? It's the right time for you. If you're ready to make your move, if you're ready to sell your home, if you're ready to buy a home, doesn't matter what the market's doing. You have a need and you need to be able to complete. Find a home, sell a home, and close on a home. Make that transaction happen. My name is Rick Naples and this has been The Real Estate Show. I thank you very much for watching and I'll see you next time.